want to put the record straight, I'd at least talk to him.
Who?
David Frost, the British talk show guy.
Why would I want to talk to David Frost?
Because a while back he wrote asking for an interview. Oh, we didn't get back, frankly. We thought it was a joke. But if you want to get your side of the story across, he'd be the guy who'd let you.
David Frost? I thought we were doing one with CBS.
We are. I just figured doing it with Frost would be a lot easier than doing it with Mike Wallace.
Well, it would, but it would have a lot less credibility.
But we could get better money.
Really?
It's about Frost taking Nixon to task, being the only person who ever elicited a confession from him of any sort post-Watergate, and all the events that led up to that.
It's so dense and rich, and it was a history lesson for me, you know. I mean, I didn't know so much about Richard Nixon. That's a line from the play about David Frost, but I didn't know so much about Richard Nixon or David Frost.
It's been interesting because I think in Britain, obviously, people are more familiar with Frost than they are with Nixon, even though they know who Nixon is and they know what happened. But here, of course, it's the other way around in a way. Even though people know who Frost is, they sort of discover who Frost is during the play, whereas they have a very sort of visceral relationship with Nixon. So it's a slight shift in emphasis.
And here you feel like you're with your peers, saying, bring him down, can we get this guy? Which makes it so much more fun. You'd have to do a lot less work with the facts and a lot more work with the way you spin them and the fun you have with them.
It just takes what would otherwise be sort of, you know, a kind of event where two people like ships in the night are crossing, and makes it have a kind of impact that it wouldn't otherwise have.
But it's madness, of course. You've only just got the job, only just got your feet under the desk. Forget I ever asked. Now, do we fancy the
Who is it?
I can't tell you that, John. No. At this stage, it's all on a need-to-know basis.
Who is it?
Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon?
Well, come on, don't look like that.
How do you expect me to look? I spent yesterday evening watching you interview the Bee Gees.
I was watching a TV program in which they had sort of interviews with David Frost. You know, it was sort of a profile of his life. And it mentioned this story, and I remember seeing that in 1993, and I immediately thought, oh, that's an interesting story. It took me a long time to work up the courage to write it.
I refuse to think anything well of Richard Nixon, and the play really turns you around, makes him such a sympathetic character, and that in turn makes him so layered and complex and in a way that's really unexpected.
I've been with him now for 6-7 months, and if you just allow that to be, you know, he on stage, he doesn't inhabit me at all off stage, but on stage, it's actually it's very much a part of me. I don't even think about it. I just come down and lean over and go.
Both actors are very adept at being able to give something of the essence of the men they're playing. And I think the joy working with them both is that they've been able to come out in front of an audience and say, look, here's a little bit of Richard Nixon, here's a little bit of David Frost, but now watch us, as it were, take on these men and go much, much deeper than anything you've seen before.
Well, you're going to get your chance to talk about them sooner than you think.
Yeah? How?
Frost got there. He got the money.
What?
I hear most of it's borrowed, that friends have bailed him out, but the point is, we start taping end of March.
Really? That's terrific. How much time is devoted to Watergate?
25%, just one of 4 90-minute shows.
What are the other 3 divided into?
Foreign policy, domestic affairs, and Nixon the man.
Nixon the man, as opposed to what? Nixon the horse?
They're luminous, the pair of them, they really are. And it's wonderful to hear, to watch them in rehearsals go at it, and then to hear them from my dressing room doing those interviews night after night. You can't help but listen, you just can't. There's no sitting backstage doing the crossword. It's riveting, it's really wonderful to work with people that good.
One of the smart things they did with choosing with Michael Grandage as the director was, at the same time, they're doing not caricatures of those guys who we know so well. I think the British audience knows David Frost a lot better than we do, although we remember him. We know Nixon much better, and I think Frank's made a choice to do as much of Nixon as you can, and you're not watching him basically imitate or do a full-on caricature of him, so you can actually watch the man.
Yeah, it's been fantastic because we you know, the kind of spark that we have on stage has been great, and we've got on really well, and it's a pleasure to do it. It's so great to be on stage with someone, especially these two parts who are sort of pitted against each other, to have a working relationship with someone where you can really play off each other, and you know, it's different every night, and we sort of just really react off each other. It's been fantastic.
It's wonderful. The last great partnership I had was with another Brit, with Alan Bates. And Michael and I have that same sort of chemistry where we don't even talk about it very much. It's something that happens between us on the stage and in rehearsal. I don't think ever once has Michael said, if you do this, I'll do that, or I've ever said, can you wait for this? We are very, very in tune to each other.
We now know that you were desperately trying to contain or block the
no, hang on a minute there. I wasn't...
Obstruction of justice is obstruction of justice, whether it's for a minute or 5 minutes. And it's no defence to say that your plan failed. I mean, if I tried to rob a bank and failed, that's no defence. I still tried to rob that bank.
Will you just wait a minute there, Mr. Frost? There is no evidence of any
the
kind.
Reason there's no evidence is because 18.5 minutes of the conversation with Bob Haldeman from this June period have mysteriously been erased.
That was an unfortunate oversight.
I just thought it was fascinating that Peter Morgan had written a political thriller. Even though people probably know exactly what happens in these stories, somehow he structured it in a way that keeps that being questioned pretty much throughout the productions.
There's suspense, even though you know kind of what's going to happen. You watch how it unfolds, and you get so invested in the stakes of the characters and how invested they all are in having it unfold in front of them.
Yeah, everybody knows sort of what Nixon said, but I think if you asked anybody on the street, okay, what did Richard Nixon really say in the David Frost interviews, they go, well, I know they were famous, but I don't really remember exactly what it was. And that's what the thriller part of it is what did he really say? We remember what was going on and what we wanted him to do, but how did they get there? How did they get him to say something?
At the end of the day, it's a piece of high theatricality and gives us an opportunity to really have a huge amount of tension within an auditorium, which I think is one of the most exciting things to try and achieve.